Welcome to this episode of Mark Menendez Bass TV on beautiful Kentucky Lake, my home lake. In the fall, going to be looking for bass in places at neck down, and then we're going to go hunt some shad later in the day when the sun gets up. Stay tuned to Mark Menendez Bass TV.
The summer-fall transition can be tough on any lake. Varying weather conditions have bass moving all around. Mark will have to move around a lot today. He will start close to the launch to begin the day and start off with some go-to techniques. Let's join Mark on the water as he begins his day on his home waters of Kentucky Lake.
Fish in places of high probability. Little places that neck down, like leading out of the marina. Gonna go fish some more riprap cuts, just places where a fish can pull up there to feed first thing in the morning. I'm gonna bounce around to 5 or 6 of them, see if I can't get bit, and then later in the day, I'm gonna start fishing heavy wood in areas that have shad. So it's a tough time of the year, but if we can make one of these things work, we should have a good day of fishing. It's a beautiful day, high and blue and wind, so I'm glad to see some wind. Wind always helps on clean water like we have here in the fall, but it's just in that in-between period, in between late summer, early fall, getting headed towards winter, and the fish haven't grouped up yet. So it's peck and hunt, gather and scratch, get what you can get, and that's what we're going to try to do. Grab this old spinnerbait to burn over this flat. I caught a big one here last year on one of our shows. Look at that giant. Oh my gosh. We're looking for those places that have a little step that lead to deeper water and the fish can set up on. We got the perfect wind. It's rolling across this and early, so we're looking for something to crash this thing. As the sun gets up, this kind of bite goes away. But we've got wind today. Man, we haven't had wind in a while like this that I've been up here. It's a big help. Looking for anything that's gonna bite quick. You know, I've got stuff I can move fast with. I'm fishing fast this morning. Water temperature's right at 60 degrees. Fish should be primed to move and hit a moving bait. So a spinnerbait, a square bill, a jerk bait, those are my primary three. Very basic stuff. Spinnerbait, I'm burning real high on top of the water to get that reaction bite. Fishing corners with a square bill, if a fish is out in 2 or 3 feet of water, a little deeper maybe. And then the jerk bait when the sun comes up a little bit to fish these high percentage places. Sometimes this high percentage deal works because it's a high percentage deal, but you don't have a lot of fish and they get positioned right where they're catchable. So if you can figure out the angle or the placement of the fish, you can go place to place to place and catch that single fish that's ready to bite. And that's what we're trying to do this morning, is run those first thing.
No bites so far for Mark. He's fishing faster and covering water with a run and gun approach. So far, he's targeting multiple spots, mostly with riprap and drains. These are great targets to catch bass during the transition period. Unfortunately, Mark hasn't had any bass that want to play. He will have to run farther down the lake and start to target shallow areas where shad and wood are plentiful.
There's one. Hit a rock and that one just jumped all over that square bill. Get down, little guy. How about that? In the shade, still up and active. Ate a little sexy Rockstar. Not a big one, but he'll be a 15-incher soon. Bounced that right off a rock. Deflection, he ate it. We may go up that a little ways then. Came to fish this wood. That one ate it like he meant to get it too. That's what's so important about crankbait. I've said it a bazillion times. You've got to make it deflect off of something. It's got to bounce off something. That deflection causes that strike. Ooh, that fell right there too. bait down in this pocket. That's good to see. Flipping all across the pocket, around the boat. We'll go up and crank that bank right there in the shade and see what happens. Got fish right here in front of me. See those right there in 4 foot of water? There's a lot of fish movement right there. There goes my crankbait right over the top of it. I sure do like being able to see things like this. It even helps me in shallow water to see a fish or two. Brush pile right out here in front of me. There it is. That little guy, another little guy. These little old bitty fish. About to eat my little crankbait. Healthy little dude. Just snuck up behind him. This is nice to see. Healthy, 3-year-old fish. Going to be big one of these days. And we're just going to crank on up through here and see what happens in this shade line. There's another fish right there. Is that a fish? Yes, sir, it's a fish. Maybe not. This may be Memorex here. Yeah, that's Memorex. It sure felt good. I thought, my goodness, that would have been back to back. You know what we've got this big shallow flat back here that bait fish have been on. Water's temperatures are falling. Water's falling. And that always points fish out. Now this is not a dynamic point here, but I'm sitting in 4.5 feet of water. So that's relatively deep water for the back end of this pocket. So they just kind of filter their way back out here and then they pause on places like this. I've got the shade here that's giving me a little extra activity because of these high bluebird skies. And I've got a ton of bait fish. So I've got 3 things. I've got a place they can congregate because the water is coming down. I've got shade here and I got bait here. And we haven't seen a lot of bait on Kentucky Lake for a lot of years, but it is coming back and that's a really good thing to see.
It's not been a blockbuster day so far on Kentucky Lake, but Mark has found a few bites cranking a trusty KVD 1.5 square bill along the bank. He's been milking and dissecting it for quite a while. The presence of shad and shade has kept a few bass hanging out here. Food and cover are a perfect combination for transitioning bass, and the ability to cover water and fish the square bill through wood has gotten Mark a couple of bites.
I'm going to tune this crankbait. This crankbait is running back to the right just a hint, so I'm not getting the maximum depth out of it. So this bait is running to the right. I'm going to take my pliers and slightly bend the eye back to the left. Just a hint. I didn't move it much. Let's see if that gets it just right. Still running to the right a little bit. Still running to the right, just a hint, but it's better than it was. Again, I'll take pliers right there. Take the eye of the bait. Just bend it a hint. To the left. You do it the opposite way. If it runs right, bend left. If it runs left, bend right. And now it's coming straight back to the boat. Perfect. You know, the 1.5 really matches the size of the bait fish that I have in front of me today. And so it's an all-around bait that I use all over the country because threadfin shad generally don't get that big. If I had a lot of gizzard shad back here, I'd use a 4.0 or maybe an 8.0, something like that. And color is relatively easy to define in that it just needs to be bait fish-like. Unless you get a fresh rain, it muds it up. I'll go to a standard chartreuse and black or a Catawachi color, which is another form of a chartreuse and black. But just something shad-like. A black and white one is great. A gizzard shad color is great. This is natural shad. As long as it's got that impulse that looks like a Shad. It's got that little white flash to it. It's really all you really have to have. And so color is simple, size is the main thing you need to figure out, and can't go wrong with a 1.5 most of the time. There. Well, they're right there on that corner. Of course, this one hit it way at the end of the cast. A little old bitty guy, but look here, he hit it on the outside of the mouth. Came down on top of it. That one there's had a few rougher days. Right on the corner of this point, I'm gonna pole down right here and make some casts. That one hit it like there's some more up there. Isn't that funny? Right in one little area. I sure am glad to see them. They're not big, but they will be one of these days. I think it's funny with a crankbait how many times they hit it on the end of the cast when that bait finally makes it to the bottom. 6XD, 5XD, 1.5, it doesn't matter how many you catch like that when it finally first touches the bottom. There's a good one. Or is he foul hooked? I can't do a lot with him. I can't tell. Darn good fish, I'll tell you that. Yeah, he's a good fish. Good fish pull. Is this a smallmouth back here in the dirt? Is that what's going on here? That's what it is. It's a smallmouth in the dirt. There's your keeper smallmouth. How about that back here in the dirt? Nice little old bass. He hit that thing like a ton of bricks. And I just barely got him with one hook. How about that? Old long-tailed smallmouth back here. Pretty and golden. He pulled my string pretty hard right there. Let's see if we can't get another one. Good little bass right there. You know, that's an old 1.5 natural shad pattern. It's basically black and white, got a little yellow in it, makes it look real. But the whole deal about this thing is getting it down and hitting something. If I'm not hitting something, I'm twitching my rod tip, making it react, making it look like a jerkbait. But it matches the hatch of the Shad that are back here in the back end of this bay, and it comes through the cover well. 1-2 punch. Well, with a square bill, I'm bouncing, I'm moving, I'm starting it, I'm stopping, I'm jerking it like a jerkbait. I'm making this thing do as many erratic things as I can. And the rod I've got here is a 7-foot composite. It's a David Fritz Perfect cranking rod and a medium heavy. And what this does is it dampens the feel of the bait to me. As that crankbait keeps moving, as I become a better fisherman, I get really in tune. If that crankbait does something funny, I set the hook. Well, you can take it away from a lot of fish, particularly in shallow water. So the composite rod, what it does for me is it delays that impulse to my hand and allows that fish to get the whole bait or get enough of the bait to get caught. This is a gigantic one right there. That felt like a fish right there. It allows that fish to get caught because of the moderate action of the rod. Oh, golly, that feels good right there. Big rock or something right there. But it allows that fish to fight hard. That little smallmouth kicked my butt. I thought I'd foul hooked the fish at first, but I just had him in the corner of the mouth. And the composite rod got him to the boat. So using a 7-to-1, this is a Lews custom reel, and it doesn't take up as much line. Even though it's a 7-to-1, it only takes about 31 inches of line per handle turn, which is not that much. Say like a 9.5-to-1, it takes 40. And I like the size and the weight of it, and I like the way it works and the speed it comes back. So it's all a complete system with 15-pound Seaguar and Vizex on there is my 1-2 with square bills.
Mark has finally got dialed into the fish. They haven't been giants, but for a tough Kentucky lake, he'll take it. Oh, and the gorgeous smallmouth was a plus. The sky is starting to go solid blue, and the wind has started to die off. Mark decides to slip into a marina and try to pick off a couple bass that may be holding tighter to some boat docks, putting down the square bill and pulling out his trusty jig.
About 4 feet of magic where it happens a lot. Oh yeah. Ah, I missed that fish. I straight up missed him. I feel like a bass. There's a good one right there. Oh yeah, look at there. How about that for a dock bass in the sun? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He got that old Hypertech jig. I've got a rage bug back there that I've modified, but that's another nice keeper. How about that? Nice keeping bass right there. He gave me 2 chances on that one. Good job, fella. He gave me 2 chances on that. I missed him the first time. Pitched right back in there and he ate it. All right. Hey, little salvage there. How about that? Well, I wore it a little corner out, trying to make something happen, trying to get a bite. So I've transitioned to docks to fish this shade. This shade's a good way to do it. It's the biggest cover we have left on the lake anymore as far as places that a largemouth can get in and hide and feel comfortable on this Chamber of Commerce kind of day. So picked up the old Hypertech jig and have gone to work. Oh, I didn't even throw it in there. There's a good fish. How about that? That's a nice bass right there. Look at that one. He got the old jig. Come on. Come on. I'm tired of dealing with you. Get on up here. All right. Looky what we found. We found us a good one on old Hypertech jig. Old Hypertech jig, I'm telling you. Fall fishing on Kentucky Lake. It can test your patience, but you can see the lake is coming back. We caught little fish today, but that's good for the future. Fall fishing on Kentucky Lake, the southeast, it's always been tough this time of year. Stay after it, keep fishing, stay positive. See us on the next episode of Mark Menendez Bass TV, where we'll catch a few like this. See ya. Hey, it turned out to be a pretty successful day. Started running high percentage places, little neck down places, little points of ripraps going into bays, things like that. Those are places that I can get a strike if a fish is there ready to feed. You never got a bite doing that. Ran to the back of a bay and found some shad and found the last little deep water back there, and the fish had pulled out there to it. Managed to get a nice keeper smallmouth and caught several fish back there. Showing that the health of Kentucky Lake is pretty good now. We've got a lot of bait fish in the lake again, and we caught some little guys like that, which I'm always glad to see. Made a final adjustment and pulled into a marina, lots of shade under these docks, and managed to get 2 quality bites before time ran out on us, and it was time for us to get going. But this is typical fall fishing. Always keep your mind open. Don't give up. Make that cast, fish it through the final cast, and always stay after it and make multiple changes. I mean, I threw a spinnerbait some, I caught them on a square bill, I caught some on a jig, Hypertech fluoro jig, and it's really hard this time of year to just have 1 or 2 rods out. Fortunately, I was able to do it without using a spinning rod. I didn't have to get any finesse tactics out. And, if I had a tournament tomorrow, I would do this again. I would run these docks, big docks in the bays, commercial docks and things like that with a jig, and I think I could catch 5 over the day's time. That would be a pretty good catch. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this recap of what we did today. I enjoyed bringing it to you. Watch us again on Mark Menendez Bass TV, and we'll bring bass fishing to you.
Mark Menendez Bass TV is brought to you by Skeeter Boats, Seaguar, Lews, feel the difference, Strike King Lure Company, Motorguide, never stop. Closed captioning provided by Die Safe.